Hello, everyone, and welcome to my UCLA special subject matter experts interviews. My name is Cindy McDonald, and I'm very glad to have with me today Dr. Steven Antonoff, and he has been a pioneer in the area of college counseling for many, many years. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you very much. Glad to be with you, Cindy.
So Steve, tell my students, I have students from all over the world in schools and nonprofit groups. We even have somebody from Colorado Springs. I know you're located in Denver. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and your experience?
Sure. First, let me say that I'm speaking to a pioneer. Cindy, you have led the way in many ways for people who want to do a good job of college counseling. So it's a privilege to be talking with you today. As far as myself, I have a master and doctorate from the University of Denver. And when I finished work in higher education administration, I took a job as Dean of Students at the University of Denver. I was about 24, I think, or something. It was a good gig, and I enjoyed it. And then after a few years of doing that, I moved over to admissions, where I was Dean of Admissions and Financial Aid for several years before leaving the University of Denver to go into private counseling. Because I was in admissions, I was intrigued by the college admissions process, and because I didn't have a school certificate, I couldn't work in the public school, so I decided to do it privately, and I researched, and then when I left, I spent probably 4 months visiting colleges. As much as I knew about college admission, I knew really nothing about different colleges and how they were distinguished from one another, and so it took personal visits to really get to where I felt like I was knowledgeable enough to help people, and I've been doing just that for about 30 years. It's been a wonderful experience for me. I've met some amazing students and parents over all of those years. I now do a reasonable amount of speaking to parent groups and to student groups. I also have written 2 college planning guidebooks, College Match and College Finder. I used to teach at the UCLA through the UCLA Extension, which I loved. Then I moved over to UC Irvine because of a specific type of certificate program that they were starting. But my main love is sitting and working with students and parents as they sometimes struggle and sometimes not through the college admissions process.
So as you went through and you found, because you were one of the very first people that was going visiting colleges and working privately with families, what did you discover and what did you feel in terms of that as a profession, as an industry? What were some of the things, the needs that you saw?
Well, when I was going through college and before, I really felt in some ways that there were kind of good colleges and then there were all the others. In other words, I felt like I guess I was brainwashed to a certain extent in terms of feeling like there were certain good schools that you ought to consider, and then there were others. When I started visiting, I learned that there were hundreds of incredible opportunities out there for students. And while the Ivy League schools and the most competitive public schools are all great places and interesting places, I found hundreds and hundreds of others. And it was the quest to try to share some of that information that has led me to do what I've been doing for all these years. So the main learning was that there were just amazing colleges out there, and that students are so different that if you can help them find a good match, that you're really making a contribution to their life.
Absolutely. And we've, and now we're at a stage where that is such an important thing. And I think that's why learning about other programs, that's why my students are in the UCLA program to get that UCLA certificate. Now you're involved with the college, the AICEP, and becoming a certified educational planner. Can you tell my students what that is and how that's accomplished?
Yeah, sure. So in the mid-90s, a group of people, there were deans of admission. In fact, the current dean of admission at Stanford was on our original board. We decided that the field of college counseling was important enough for a credential. That is to say that in our world, we've got plumbers that are credentialed, we have real estate people, we have people of all sorts, high and low on the status spectrum, who are being credentialed, and we felt like that college counseling was just as important as some of those careers. So we started a program that exists today, where public school, private counselors, counselors, independent educational consultants can become a certified educational planner. In other words, can be designated as a CEP.
And what do they have to do that?
Let me say first that the CEP program is not for a person entering the field. It's more for people who have been in college counseling maybe 3 to 5 years, have some experience under their belt. That's the kind of person that we're seeking. That person needs to make an application. We review both their education. We require a master's degree, although if someone has a significant amount of experience, that sometimes is waived. But we look at education, we look at activities and experiences, we review, we ask candidates to submit a case study of a student that they've worked with. And through all of those means, we gather information, and then if the person has the requisite experience and education, then they are enabled to move on to the next phase, which is an examination. It's the only peer-reviewed examination in the field of college counseling, and the examination covers both institutional knowledge, specifically information about the colleges that the person has indicated that they have visited, and also 2 case studies, which are typical in school-based or independent counseling offices. The first step is to complete the application, and that is available at aicep.org. And the people there, including myself, am always available to answer questions, to talk with somebody about their readiness to be a certified educational planner.
And I can attest to that as well, because I know the commission and people are just, you and everyone is always so available and willing to answer questions and, guide through the whole steps. So when people ask you what's the difference, though, between getting like a certificate, the UCLA College Counseling Certificate, and being a CEP, what do you say?
Yeah. I don't think you can ever learn enough. I am a huge advocate in people being professionally involved. So I encourage everyone to be involved with NACAC, both national and local. If they're an independent consultant, they should consider HECA and IECA and see which one of those meets their need. I encourage people to take classes online. I think it's extremely important. The distinction I would say is this. Anyone can sign up for a class and can do the work to pass a class and to pass a series of classes. And that's important and not to be minimized. But you can take classes and not know colleges. Mm-hmm. You can take classes and not have experience working with students. And the application for CEP asks you for professional affiliations, asks you for ways that you have been professionally engaged, asks you about conference attendance, asks you about material that you may have written for your students in school or for your clients in a private practice, asks you certainly about your employment history and how many years you've had, and all of those things are evaluated through the CEP process. Furthermore, once a person is certified, they are certified for 5 years. And in the 5 years after they're certified, they have to continue to attend conferences. They have to continue to visit colleges. So one of the major distinctions, I think, between getting an online certificate and being credentialed as a certified educational planner is the requirement of continuing education.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great distinction. Oftentimes, we can start off with the UCLA certificate, and that gives us a foundation that we can build and grow on. And many students come in with knowledge and experience, and so the two can go hand in hand. It just all depends on where you are, as you've described, in your stage of the profession as you work with both visiting colleges, work with families, and applying that knowledge. It takes time. It takes experience. And
it really does. And again, I even after 30 years, I mean, the minute I stop learning, I need to hang it up. And the ability of students to take a class with you, to learn about LD and learn about undocumented students and athletes and so forth. I mean, those are critical components. The opportunity to go to a WACAC meeting, to share information with colleagues, to contribute if you can, to do the same with ICA or HECA. Those things are all important, and people can't do everything right away. Have a plan. My hope is that people who are serious about college counseling will at least have on their radar screen becoming a certified educational planner. It may not be tomorrow, it may not be next month, but hopefully at the right time for that individual, they will want to do it. Because as our profession grows and as college counseling has become more and more central to family life and family decision making and values that people bring to the table, as all of those things become more and more important, the importance of the college counselor increases.
Mm-hmm. And the importance of having that quality and being able to really serve the students and the families in a way that's beneficial for them.
Absolutely.
So any other words of advice, or, I mean, you've seen the profession grow over these last 30 years. Any other thoughts or comments you would like to share, Steve?
Well, again, I appreciate your asking me to do this, Cindy. And my only other advice is we're still, as a field of college counseling, we're still young. Mm-hmm. And there's still room for pioneers. And so I encourage all of your students and others who are serious about college counseling to really get involved, make presentations at conferences, write about topics that you are interested in. We desperately need new voices, and we need to establish ourselves even more. So that would be my primary bit of advice.
I totally agree. I think that's great, sage words of wisdom. So if someone wants to reach you and get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Well, pretty easy to get in touch with. My email is steve@schoolbuff, that's SCHOOLBUFF, 2 F's at the end, like Frank.com. I mentioned this, if you're interested in the CEP program, probably best to write directly to aicep.org. And other information about me is on my website, which is SchoolBuff.
So if somebody wants to invite you to come speak to their school or something like that, that's where they can go, right?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. And I know my students will really appreciate the insights and information about, just this perspective on college counseling and where it's been and how important getting that professional development and how CEP becoming a certified educational planner fits into that. So thank you very much.
It's an honor to do this, and always an honor to do it with you, Cindy. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Have a great day. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.